Imagine holding a glass of water in your hand. It looks harmless, right? Just a clear, refreshing liquid that keeps you alive. But what if I told you that inside that single glass, there is enough hidden energy to power your entire house for a year, or flatten a city block in the blink of an eye? It sounds like science fiction, a paradox that your brain refuses to accept, but it's the terrifying, beautiful truth of the universe we live in. We walk around every day on top of a sleeping giant, completely unaware that the solid ground beneath our feet is actually a buzzing hive of invisible potential waiting for a spark. For thousands of years, we thought fire was the limit. We burned wood, then coal, then oil, thinking we had mastered the art of energy. But we were just scratching the surface like cavemen, playing with matches while sitting on a stockpile of dynamite. Then, in a dusty lab in Paris, a man named Henri Becquerel saw a rock glow in the dark without any power source. And everything changed. He didn't just find a new element, he found a glitch in reality. A paradigm shift that would force us to rewrite the laws of physics and question everything we thought we knew about nature. This isn't just a history lesson about old scientists with wild hair. It's the story of how we almost destroyed the world trying to save it. It's about a chain reaction that started in a test tube and ended up holding the entire planet hostage. We unlocked the power of the stars, but we didn't have the wisdom to control it. So, buckle up, because we are about to dive into the most dangerous, controversial, and mind-bending story of human history. The day we decided to bottle the sun. Imagine walking into a quiet, dusty room that looks perfectly still, like an old library where nothing ever changes. For centuries, that's exactly how the smartest minds viewed the physical world. Solid, predictable, and safe, unaware of the invisible potential humming right beneath their fingertips. But the reality was far more volatile. Imagine that room wasn't empty, but covered floor to ceiling in set mousetraps, each loaded with a ping-pong ball, waiting for a single touch to erupt. We were living on top of a dormant volcano of energy, completely oblivious to the fact that the stability of matter was just an illusion, a temporary pause before a chaotic chain reaction. Then, in 1896, Henri Becquerel accidentally tossed a pebble into that room and realized the silence was actually a lie. He discovered that uranium salts could expose photographic plates in pitch darkness, proving that energy was leaking out from nowhere, defying every rule of physics we held dear. It was as if those mousetraps were starting to snap on their own, revealing a hidden energy that had been sleeping since the dawn of time. This wasn't just a scientific curiosity, it was the universe whispering that there was a monster hiding in the basement. And we had just found the key to unlock the door. Think of Marie Curie, working tirelessly in her shed, her hands stained and burned by the very element she was purifying. She used to keep vials of radium by her bedside, marveling at their soft blue-green glow, like they were magical fairy lights guiding her through the darkness. She didn't know she was holding death in her pocket. She thought she was holding the future, mesmerized by a beauty that was slowly killing her. That glow was a warning sign we were too naive to read, a beautiful trap that was about to snap shut on the entire world, leading us toward a paradigm shift that would force us to make an impossible choice. For the longest time, trying to split an atom felt like trying to force two north poles of a magnet together. The harder you pushed, the harder nature pushed back. The nucleus was a fortress, protected by an electrical force field that repelled every attack we threw at it, keeping its secrets locked away tight. But then James Chadwick found a loophole in 1932, discovering the neutron, a ghost bullet that had no charge and could slip past the guards unnoticed. It was the master key the universe had been hiding, a silent intruder capable of sliding into the heart of matter without raising a single alarm. This wasn't just a new particle, it was the invisible potential we needed to pick the lock that held the physical world together. But unlocking that door required more than just a key. It required a mind brilliant enough to turn it, and that mind belonged to Lise Meitner. Imagine fleeing your home in the dead of night, escaping the tightening grip of Nazi Germany, with nothing but a diamond ring in your pocket and your life's work left behind in a Berlin lab. She was a refugee running for her life. Yet she carried the weight of a scientific revolution in her head, a secret that would soon shake the foundations of reality. While the world was preparing for a conventional war, she was wrestling with a paradigm shift that would make every weapon ever built look like a child's toy. She was the mother of a power she never intended to birth, running toward a revelation that would change history. It wasn't in a high-tech lab where the breakthrough finally happened, but on a quiet, snowy walk in the woods of Sweden, far from the chaos she had escaped. Meitner realized that the uranium atom hadn't just chipped or cracked when hit by that ghost bullet. It had burst apart like a water balloon filled with too much water, unable to hold its own tension. She sat on a tree stump and scribbled the math on a scrap of paper, proving that matter could actually vanish and reappear as pure, terrifying energy. The chain reaction had begun in her mind, a realization that the solid world was actually a reservoir of immense power, waiting for someone to light the fuse that would inevitably lead to a race against time. Imagine you are sitting in a car at the very top of the steepest hill you've ever seen, and the only thing keeping you from plummeting into disaster is your foot hovering over the brake pedal. That is exactly what Enrico Fermi was facing in a squash court in Chicago, trying to coax a nuclear chain reaction into existence without letting it run wild and destroy everything in its path. The uranium atoms were desperate to accelerate, to release their hidden energy all at once in a terrifying burst, but Fermi had to ride the brake with absolute precision. He wasn't trying to stop the car, he was trying to drive it down that deadly slope at exactly 1 mile per hour, proving that we could harness the beast without getting devoured by it. The tension in that room was thick enough to cut with a knife, because if Fermi's calculations were off by even a fraction, there was no undo button to press. High above the pile of graphite bricks stood 3 young physicists, grimly dubbed the Suicide Squad, holding buckets of liquid cadmium like knights preparing to douse a dragon's fire. If the mechanical control rods failed and the invisible potential of the atom surged out of control, their only job was to dump those buckets onto the pile, poisoning the reaction instantly. They knew that saving the city of Chicago might mean sacrificing themselves to a lethal dose of radiation, a silent pact made in the name of a paradigm shift that was bigger than any one life. It wasn't just high-tech sensors and computers guarding them. The ultimate failsafe was a man standing ready with a literal axe, eyes fixed on a simple rope. This rope held the emergency safety rod suspended above the pile, ready to drop and kill the reaction the moment that rope was severed, a crude medieval solution to a futuristic problem. This is where the term scram likely comes from, safety control rod axeman, a reminder that even as we unlocked the secrets of the universe, we were still relying on human muscle and nerve to keep us safe. As the Geiger counters began to click faster and faster, the world held its breath, waiting to see if we had just lit a candle or a stick of dynamite. When you strip away the terrifying complexity and the invisible potential of the atom, a nuclear reactor is really just the most expensive, dangerous way to boil water. It's a steam engine, where the coal is invisible and burns for years, a high-stakes tea kettle that could power a city or level it. We had spent decades fearing the monster we had unleashed. But now we were trying to harness its heat to turn a turbine, proving that the same force that could destroy could also create. It was a paradigm shift from weapon to tool, a desperate attempt to tame the dragon and make it breathe fire into our homes instead of burning them down. On December 20th, 1951, in the desolate plains of Idaho, Walter Zinn stood before a control panel. his hand hovering over a switch that would change the world forever. He wasn't trying to split the atom for war. He was trying to coax a chain reaction into a steady hum of electricity, a gentle purr instead of a roar. As the reactor hummed to life, he scribbled "electricity flows" in the logbook, a simple phrase that marked the moment we finally bottled the sun. It wasn't a grand explosion or a blinding flash of light, but a quiet victory that proved we could control the uncontrollable. The proof wasn't a city glowing on the horizon, but 4 humble light bulbs flickering to life in a dusty room, barely enough to light a Christmas tree. Yet those 4 bulbs represented a monumental leap forward, a beacon of hope that the hidden energy of the universe could be used for good. We had taken the most destructive force known to man and turned it into a source of light, a promise that the future could be powered by the very thing we feared most. It was a small step, but it was the first time we realized that the monster could be tamed, and that the power of the stars was now in our hands. In the 60s and 70s, it felt like we had finally rubbed the magic lamp and summoned the ultimate genie. Countries like France went all in, powering nearly their entire grid with this hidden energy, proving that we could live in a world of abundant, clean power. But this genie came with a strict, non-negotiable rule. I will give you everything you desire, but you must never, ever take your eyes off me. We were drunk on the promise of a paradigm shift, believing we had mastered the universe's most volatile force, forgetting that a genie is still a powerful prisoner, constantly looking for a way to break free. But complacency is a slow poison, and eventually the genie found a crack in our vigilance. It wasn't always a massive explosion that shattered the dream. Sometimes it was just a stuck valve or a confusing control panel that spiraled into a terrifying chain reaction of panic. We realized that harnessing the power of the stars meant accepting a risk that never sleeps, a bargain where 99% safety isn't good enough. The world watched in horror as the promise of infinite energy turned into a looming threat. A reminder that the invisible potential we tapped into didn't care about our good intentions or our engineering marvels. Imagine living near 3 Mile Island in 1979, waking up to a silence that felt heavier than usual. Unlike a fire you can smell or a flood you can see rising, radiation is a ghost. It has no shape, no sound, and no face. You look at your children playing in the yard and wonder if the air they are breathing is slowly poisoning them, a psychological terror that freezes you to the bone. That fear of the invisible stopped the industry dead in its tracks, freezing development for decades and leaving us to wonder if we had made a mistake that couldn't be undone, or if we just needed to learn a harder lesson about control. We've journeyed from a dark room full of mousetraps to a world powered by the very force that binds the universe together. But the story doesn't end with the fear of a meltdown or the waste we bury underground. Right now, we are standing on a new balcony, looking down at a massive paradigm shift. Projects like ITER that aim to stop splitting the atom and start joining it, mimicking the heartbeat of the stars themselves. The fire Becquerel found is still burning, and the invisible potential of fusion offers a future where energy is limitless and clean if we have the courage to grasp it. But here is the real question for you. Do you have the discipline to tend your own fire? Just like that uranium atom, you hold a massive amount of hidden energy inside you, waiting for a spark to set off a chain reaction of success or destruction. Are you going to let your potential decay like waste, or are you going to harness it to build something that outlasts you? The power to change your reality is already there, sitting in the nucleus of your daily choices, waiting for you to stop being afraid of the heat. Don't let this knowledge sit idle like a dormant reactor. If this story sparked something in you, if you felt that shift in perspective, then hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are just scratching the surface of what's possible, and I want you right here with me for the next discovery. Let's keep learning, let's keep questioning, and let's make sure we are the ones controlling the reaction, not the other way around.